Sheridan's beauty was transcendent. She passed in 2012 at the age of 59. In the latter half of her shortened life, a personal torment drew her more and more into a retreat from the world, although she was surrounded by a highly sophisticated family. As Sheridan's reclusive nature advanced, her life was focused in her cottage and studio, an adjunct to an estate within one of America's wealthiest communities. And it's there, during the last 10 years of her life, that she began painting. She had no formal art training whatsoever. With paints, brushes, easels, and canvases provided by the family, she simply began to open up to what would become a torrent of expression that in the last 10 years of her life produced over 1,000 works of art. She painted on two primary surfaces, stock-colored poster boards and pre-stretched canvases. She worked with acrylic paint and went through a series of styles that are now captured in her body of work. Her approach was direct, often incorporating printed images and text into her work. Naturally drawn to pattern, she embedded and embellished many of her pieces with printed fabrics. Although professionally trained artists often struggle with texture and brushstrokes, Sheridan seemed almost to speak through hers. Paint forms a rich landscape on her surfaces, making the experience of seeing her work a journey of perpetual discovery. Therefore, her work is best viewed in person, because no photograph or print can convey the narrative effectively. The works are indeed bold and speak strongly as individuals from a wall. But then one is naturally drawn in closer and closer, enticed by the sublime and endlessly fascinating intricacies of her work. Each piece offers a unique perspective. There are no tricks or repetition. And that applies to the composition itself, forming a cohesive whole, composed of an ever-changing dynamic of form, color, and strikingly impressive lines. One becomes addicted to her interpretation of line, which is often in black, but within which one discovers an intense and finely finessed inner matrix of geometrica, formed with a scintillating attention to edges, wedges, and points. Edges are never taken for granted. When two of her bold lines cross, it is often impossible to know how they meet. Normally, painters will create one line and paint over with another. With Sheridan, it may be that she painted one, then began painting the next, stopping at the edge, then continuing the line by skipping over the original. You have to see it to understand it. Her degree of intention throughout her work can be mystifying, and perhaps derives from a total lack of training, which would have made such an approach seem obsessive and compulsive. But that may, in fact, be the genesis of this approach. In fact, the more one journeys through one of her paintings, regardless of the title, subject, or theme, questions naturally arise as to how she worked. Where did she start? What informed her of the final composition? And in that journey, where or how did she enrich the space with such a perfect balance of interesting form, color, and texture? For there are no boring places in her work, no overlooked place. Space within her compositions becomes labyrinths, intelligently painted circles and dots, each rendered with intention, each shape and edge somehow a perfect interpretation of what needs to be there. And it is this raw, instinctual approach that delves into the world of genius. But a genius reclused within her cottage studio, itself just quietly sequestered within a sprawling elegance within a center of wealth and influence in Southern California. But there is more to this story. For although Sheridan lived hidden away because that worked for her, she was in fact not alone. She had friends. She found a unique companionship with the iconoclasts of music and theater, Janis Joplin, Mick Jagger, Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Depp. She painted to them. She invited them into her studio and partied with them through her art. To the outside world, she appeared quiet and distant, but in her inner world, she was hot as hell. It comes through clearly and leads to a better understanding of her muse and the energetics of her work. In fact, the parallels may run very deep. Much of the world saw Hendrix, Jagger, and Joplin as the rough and raw rockers, loose, wild, unfettered. This is the world where Sheridan's work fits well, within the cultural hallways of the golden age of rock and rhythm and blues. For a song to work, it must have a theme, a message that people can feel and visualize. It must have a rhythm and a beat. It needs to be continually engaging with the listener, relying on the hook, that repeating theme, to bring connection within the song itself. It's a deep-rooted sexual energy to which the world is now addicted, as it should be. Sheridan's work is fairly compared to a rock and roll song. In fact, one might even suggest that many of her individual paintings are like a kind of song painting. They are progressive statements of a moment in life, of a character, or a sultry dark night, of the complex characters that dance deep into the night, often, in fact, the lonely strangers whom we meet every day. In fact, the lonely strangers that we each have within us. The spectrum of her work does fit within a variety of categories. One can sort it now into natural groupings of pure abstracts, montages, faces, places, inner thoughts, and cats dominate in 9 of her paintings. A significant portion are of faces and upper torsos, scintillating interpretations of people we've mentioned, Bob Dylan, Johnny Depp, and of people imagined. And it's here where one may dialogue most directly with the artist, and that is best done in person with her paintings. With such a significant and powerful body of work, it is being released through a series of shows, each showcasing a different dimension of her artistic quest. Sheridan's premier exhibition debuts in 2013. 30 of her paintings will be presented to provide viewers a personal journey into the labyrinths of her artistic sensuality. Sheridan takes us with her into her world with a hauntingly dark yet ironically charged painting entitled One Night, and brings us into her emotional body with her interpretation of Sweet Tears. Included will be 2 femme paintings, La Femme and Tulip en Nude. They stand out uniquely with their elegant simplicity. Despite her retreat into her private world, there is a regular humor that sparkles through, as in Boopala and even California Cactus. Fun. And her pure abstracts will provide insight into the complexities of her vision. The venue and time for this first solo exhibition will be announced in the months ahead. The final selections for the show will be revealed on her website and her story updated leading up to her show. The show will have something for a discerning, informed public who can accept and appreciate the often complex nature of life itself, with the inexplicable distribution of strengths and weaknesses that enthuse our beings. We are fortunate to literally see into this mystery through the works of just such a soul, who retired early, leaving us with the unique splendor of her shortened life. To stay informed about the Sheridan Show, visit the website at www.sheridan-art.com and sign up for your personal invitation to the open.